Okay, well, welcome back to Hindustan Astrology. I'm Catie, and today I have a very special guest. She is a dear friend of mine from the Star Knowledge Conferences, and she's a Native American grandmother, and this is Dr. Catie SingingEagle. Now, she has many degrees, so she's going to have to tell us all what they are, but the last one that she got was her Doctorate of Divinity. So thank you so much, Dr. Catie, for coming on and talking to us, and this is going to be a lot of fun.
Hi.
So tell us about all of these incredible degrees that you have behind your name. It's amazing.
Well, the first one I got is a bachelor's of psychology, and but I have an associate of business, bachelor of psychology, master's of fine arts, and a doctorate of divinity.
Wow, that's amazing.
And they come from various universities and places here in Ohio, Missouri, New York, all over. And my doctorate of divinity, I studied at New York, here in Ohio, and I did a lot of it online also. So in order to finish up with that one.
Right. And mainly this was all for you to be able to be a counselor and a minister. You can officially marry people, right?
Yes.
But mainly it seems to me like the whole point of you getting these degrees was to, be able to be the best counselor that you could be for people. And that combined with your wisdom as a Native American grandmother, I feel is something that the world really needs right now. They need to hear from the grandmothers. They need to hear from the women who walk between the worlds, because like myself, you also are a mix of 3 different races. We're white and black and Native American. And so when we have all of this in us, we don't quite fit into each of the worlds, but we can dance between them and share our knowledge and our gifts with each of them. And I feel like you have approached things in such a positive way. You have said, I'm not going to let any prejudice, any racism get me down. It might hurt your heart. Sometimes I understand that hurts my heart too, but you don't let it stop you. And I think this is something that people need to hear right now. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Growing up, my family has always had an oral history, letting us know where we come from, who our great-grandparents and great-great-grandparents were, what they went through, how they went through it, and what they came, what their struggles was getting to this country. And then a few years back, my sister had our DNA done, which confirmed our oral history. And even growing up, I know my family had a variety of cultures and countries and different places they came from, and even religions. And I wondered why this family member believed this way and this family member believed that way, and different things like that. So one of my grandparents said, well, why don't you read about it? Why don't you study it? Instead of, shoving me off and telling me to go my own, how adults do little kids, tell them to shut up and go over somewhere and play.
Right.
One of my grandparents said, go look it up, find out about it. So that's what I did. Later on, that piqued my curiosity. And when I was old enough to start reading, that's what I did. I started looking up these different places and the cultures and even the religions of where my people came from.
And where is that? What are the specific countries and cultures that you could identify?
I have a great-grandfather and a great-great-grandfather. Great-grandfather from Ireland, a great-great-grandfather from Scotland. I have great-great-grandfather from Mongolia. Then a great-grandmother who was Blackfoot. A great-grandmother who was Cherokee. A great-grandmother who, let's see, will I get this right? Great-grandmother who was from India.
Wow.
And so as far as I know, we come from North America. We come from Southern Asia, Northern Asia. We come from West Africa. And we come from the British Isles. So that's 5 countries that we come from.
You're in Columbus, Ohio now, but where did you grow up?
I grew up here in Columbus, Ohio.
Okay, because I know you spent a lot of time in New York.
Yes, I spent almost 7 years in New York City. I went there in 2002, right after 9/11, to work in a counseling center. I did financial work in a neighborhood at a credit union, and also I worked 2 different places, a counseling center, and also did help families get back on their feet with small loans and financial planning at a credit union. These are 2 nonprofits that I worked at and helped them out. And that was the beginning of working in New York. Before I left New York, I worked at Juilliard on Lincoln Center. I was assistant to the vice president of engineering because they were renovating Lincoln Center, and guess who knew how to read blueprints and manage men on a loading dock?
Wow. See, you're amazing. I'm telling you, this is why I'm doing this interview with you, because I feel like you're so humble, and you're not shy, but you're just humble. And you know, I want people to know more about you. I want them to know that, you know, the grandmothers are here. Look, there's so much mental illness right now in this country with this crazy civil war going on, and people are just really losing it, and they don't realize that the elders are here, especially the grandmothers are here, and they're the best counselors out there. And you've got your PhD, man. So, you know, you're like the best counselor that I could recommend, I swear. And this is what Chief says, Chief Golden Light Eagle. He says, the earth belongs to the grandmothers because the grandmothers don't want war, and they know that all children are their children. And so we don't discriminate, you know, we love unconditionally. And this is the kind of love that needs to spread, I feel, right now. We've got to come together as a country and as a world. But yeah, I'll get off on that tangent. But back to where you're from. Now, you grew up in Columbus, but did your family come from Appalachia originally?
Yes, both my father's side of the family and my mother's side. They were down in the Appalachian, Tennessee, Kentucky area. And they came up here, both sides being mixed. I just remember them saying, each one of them saying that they married who they married for love and being mixed, and it was against the law. They had to come up to Ohio to have a better life and to give a better life for their children. Just like my grandfather, who was his last name, my father's father, last name McNabb, who the McNabbs came from Scotland. And all McNabbs are related. And they settled in Tennessee. They were from the Highlands of Scotland. And they settled in the Tennessee, somewhere in the Tennessee area. And then they dispersed out different places, and a lot of them fought in the Civil War. And my great grandfather's grave is in Zanesville, Ohio, and he fought, and then he married a dark-skinned woman who we don't know if she was mixed or what, but my grandfather's father was brown skinned, but my grandfather had light colored eyes. You could not pick him out of his college 1936, his Ohio State University college picture with all the other people of color. But
well, yeah, my grandfather they came across the Trail of Tears into Oklahoma. And by the time he was, ready for college, he went to Tulsa, and it was the same time as your grandfather. So they did what was called passing for white, and, when he was 3 on the census, he was listed as Native American. But then at 18, all of a sudden, he's listed as white. So that's the thing. The mulattoes, if we could pass for white, pass as, Italian or something, Spanish, then we weren't subject to as much racism, because at the time you just couldn't fight it. Like now we can fight it, but back then you had to just blend in or it was going to be really hard,
And many of my family did. They had to straighten their hair. They had to hide the little hats, hid the little curly, what they call baby hairs around the edges that would curl up really quickly. Because, the long hair can stay straight, but those edges, before relaxers and stuff came out, they would curl up in a minute. And some of them had to do what they had to do in order to not get beat up, lynched, or whatever have you, back in those days. Use that thick polymer like wax to everybody slick their hair back, so they would slick their hair back. As you can see, my hair is natural right now, but when I was little,
I love the haircut you just got.
They would give me them tight pressing curls and dress me up like Shirley Temple, because I had to, my hair was blonde. I mean, it was blonde, and with the blue eyes and stuff. And little Catie could sing and dance and go to her grandma's teas and stuff, and, be the little showpiece, I would call it. But I was a tomboy. Sometimes I'd get in trouble because I'd go out and get dirty on purpose so I wouldn't have to.
You wouldn't have to perform, right?
So I wouldn't have to go. Yes, that would earn me a spanking, because back old school they spanked.
Oh yeah, they sure did. Boy, straightened us up real quick. But that's something I want to say about Appalachia and the mountain people in general, is that, because it's way out back and beyond, and you get up in those hills and you can just kind of stay there. So a lot of these families that were coming in on the East Coast, whether they be Italian, Greek, Jewish, Lebanese, whatever, they kept getting pushed west. And like my family came from West Virginia. My father's mother's family came from West Virginia. So, and Parkersburg, which is real near Serpent Mound. But, you get stuck up in those hills and those people just stay, And they start mixing with everybody. That's the thing. It's like, it's real hard to document this stuff when you get up into Appalachia, because they didn't document it. They couldn't.
We go visit cousins and stuff every year, and I remember driving those roads and those back hollers and stuff, visiting aunts and uncles and cousins, and going to family reunions and all that down in those places, down in the Smoky Mountains.
Oh yeah, I love it down there. It's so beautiful. But yeah, that's the thing that people got to realize is that, you know, there's a lot of Americans here whose family has been there here for hundreds and hundreds of years, and we're so mixed, you know. It's like we're really the true Native Americans. Let's switch gears a little bit. I want to talk more about your practice and about the kinds of readings that you do, because from what I understand, you are a clairsentient and a clairvoyant, and you also use tarot cards. So maybe you could, if people wanted to get a reading from you, and I'll put in the comments below the video, you guys, I'll put her contact information. She's working on her website right now, but she does have, you know, you can contact her for a reading. So if they do, what are they going to expect? Like, what kind of a reading would you do?
Now, I can do face-to-face readings, which right now, be it how we are doing now, I can do it through one of the group sites, like over like FaceTime or the Facebook, like they have the group, or I can take it by phone call.
Skype or any?
Yes, I got Skype. I've got different things on my computer or phone. I can, you can tell me your information. I can take your information by message or text, by zodiac, birth date, whatnot, and I can do it that way. And I myself will go into a meditation and see what spirit will say about you, which I have done for people, which I'll do about almost like how long it takes and get the downloads of, so to speak, of what the spirit wants to say about you or to you or the person that needs to, that way. Or I can do I do tarot readings by going to the cards and see what the card says. But mostly, if it's the way we are doing now, I'll do combine them all, and then sometimes I'll write out what everything says on, you know, write it out, and then I can email the reading that way. And my readings are done primarily by donation, and I give people my PayPal me information or PayPal information.
It's like a sliding scale, so you pay what you can afford.
Yes,
okay.
And I'll do that. Because in person, usually I have someone come over my house, or I'm a psychologist also. So my normal fee is usually, I try to do my regular counseling by a sliding scale fee, but you know how those things are. It's usually about $50 an hour or so for a regular $50 to $100 an hour for a regular psychologist. So, and as a minister, my grandmother used to tell me, please do not charge people, but see what they can afford and ask God to guide you in that direction on that
right.
type of thing. And that's why I've worked for nonprofits, is because I don't want to feel like I'm taking advantage of people. And then I cannot take an insurance policy.
But people can't take advantage of you either. So if you can afford $100, you guys, pay $100 because it's worth it. Yeah, that's important to put out there, because I think a lot of people, see, you're so humble, and a lot of people like you are so humble, they're afraid to ask for money, you know, for their time. But you know, if
you can afford it, yes, by all means, because I have been paid by several people $100, and I have been paid as little as $5. And it's funny how some of the people, you take the shortest amount of time and they'll pay you the most. You take the longest amount of time and they'll pay you the
least.
The least. Or they don't like what you tell them and they won't give you anything.
Well,
and it's like, I'm like, okay, spirit is what you want to hear from spirit. And I let you know what spirit is telling you, not what you want to hear. It's what you need to hear. So I'm one of those people that tell you what you need to hear and what it resonates with you, not necessarily what you want to hear. I don't tell your fortune. I can't see the future. I tell you what you need to work on and what you need to hear to make your life better.
Yeah.
So
do you have your cards nearby?
Yes. Give me one moment.
Yeah, pick the deck that you want and let's pull a card for everybody that's like, you know, a message for everyone, like what they're supposed to focus on. Because I feel like, you know, there's just, I mean, there's so much tension right now. And there's so much distortion, you know, it's like a distortion of the truth. And I'm seeing myself get into arguments with friends that I love. And I'm like, what the heck is going on? And then I go on Facebook and I see other friends are fighting with other friends of mine. And I'm like, whoa, you know, we are being manipulated. You know, they are trying to get us to fight. So let's pull a card and let's hear from grandmother.
Two that people like, and they are my Bhagavad Gita cards or Gita cards. And here's some revelation cards, oracle cards.
I'm going to ask for the Bhagavad Gita, if you don't mind, just because I'm a Vedic astrologer and we're on a Vedic astrology channel. So
yes, and these are, oh, why do I get goosebumps? I like my Gita, and sometimes I'm out in the middle of nowhere in the country at a festival, and people who don't even know what the Bhagavad Gita is, they'll pick the Gita cards.
Well, they're beautiful. I love the pictures.
And it's funny because I'll have some Bhagavad Gitas with me, and I'll say, here, take a Bhagavad Gita so you can look at the Bhagavad Gita and read it a little bit, because it's scripture.
Yeah, it is. And I, you know, and I hang out with the Hare Krishnas. I'm a devotee. And everywhere I go, they're passing out copies. I got a copy in LA in February that I was given by Saraswati, one of the musicians that I worked with. So it's a beautiful, beautiful book.
I have many friends at the at New Vrindavan in West Virginia. And,
oh, really?
Yes. I go down there several times a year and spend some time. Wow. And that's where I did my thesis on comparative religions, and that was one of the religions that came to me to do comparative study on. I mean, wonderful. It came to me because I was like praying and asking, God, give me the religions to do my thesis on. And that was one of them that just came to me to do. And another friend of mine said, well, why don't you go? I know where you can go. It's close by, just a 2-hour drive. And I said, where? And she said, New Vrindavan, West Virginia. And I went and I fell in love with the place and the people. And
so is that an ISKCON temple, the International Society of Krishna Consciousness?
Yes, right across the border near Wheeling and between Wheeling and Moundsville.
You know what? Next time we're at Serpent Mound, me and you are going to take a trip after we're down there. Let's do it. I would love it.
Okay, I'm going to put on my glasses so I can see.
Okay, me too. We're both the same way.
And I pulled the cleanliness card. It says cleanliness. And we are going to, usually when I don't know all of them by heart, which I don't, I always look in my little handy book.
Yeah.
So it probably means something about, it means about cleaning up your life. Yes. Cleanliness is essential for making advancement in spiritual life. There are two kinds of cleanliness, external and internal. External cleanliness means taking a bath. For the internal cleanliness, one has to think of Krishna always and chant, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. This process cleanses the accumulated dust of past karma from the mind. Bhagavad Gita 13:12 and the purport. So, in some people's, so clean up your mind. We need external and internal cleanliness to be spiritually sound. And which Hare Krishna is just like saying when chanting that is just like someone chanting Jesus or Hallelujah or
The Lord's Prayer.
The Lord's Prayer, whatever your belief system is.
Yeah.
So, and these are, I have about 4 or 5 different types of cards that I use to read from. And I let people pick the type of card that they want. Some people shut their eyes and pick a set of cards. These are some of the ones they and then I got, these are signed. These were a gift, and they're also signed by, I'm getting to know these. These are popular. They're signed by the author or whoever.
Wow. Very cool. So Revelation, so this is a more Christian-based.
This has everything.
Oh, really?
It has the tarot. It has zodiac. It has numerology. So if someone wants something all in one, these cards are like all in one.
Let's pull a card from there, and then combining it with the cleanliness, we're going to get a more clear message, because this is why Hare Krishna devotees chant Hare Krishna all the time, is because it's like in the I Ching, they say there's the superior voices of the mind and there's the inferior voices, and by chanting Hare Krishna you're lining up with the superior voices and you're pushing down the inferior voices. And I think right now, what I see around us, people are indulging in the inferior voices of the ego.
Oh, yes. Let's see. I pulled it's number 7, and the number on it is 7, and it's the crown chakra card, which the crown chakra means connecting with your higher self, connecting with the higher beings, connecting with God. So, in cleanliness is next to godliness, being more spiritual. The crown chakra means that you need to be more spiritual, that you need to connect more with the higher beings, connect more with God, connect more with your spirit being. And number 7, let me see, I always tell people what the 7 means: spirituality and knowing. So you need to know, have that knowing, be awake, so you can get that spiritual knowledge, be open to new things and spiritual knowledge. So open up that you will. Oh, I got goosebumps.
I see a connection between the two, in that Krishna consciousness is Christ consciousness, and Christ consciousness is crystalline consciousness, and that is the crown chakra, because that's like, yoga means to link up with, and this is where you link with the divine, with the Krishna consciousness.
Have that openness. Be open to the divine. Open because a lot of people are kind of have in past have shut themselves off because of religiosity, which is, religion is man-made, even though religion was supposed to point us to God, and masters and spiritual masters were supposed to just help us to know God better and to just point the way. We weren't supposed to worship the spiritual master. We weren't supposed to worship the religion or anything like that. They were just a conduit a way to get us to, you know, to help us learn how to do it for ourselves. And a lot of people and a lot of religions forgot that.
They sure did. They obsess on, well, and this is why in Islam, they don't like, you know, idolatry or images, because they're like, hey, you're not supposed to be worshiping that idol. You're supposed to, you know, and so that's their way around that. But I think that, you know, there's a lot of other things, you know, the inferior voices of the ego are really playing out right now. And like we were saying before the interview, I feel like a lot of social media is kind of pitting us against each other.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like they want us to fight, and we have to stop that. We have to do exactly what that is. Come from our crown chakra and just, you know, keep that connection strong.
If we can see each other as spirit beings and not as male, female, black, white, this or that, but I see you as a spirit being. I see the other person as a spirit being, or as some people say, spirit souls. Then then all this other stuff would not make too much sense. You know,
Right.
Would not matter.
Right, and it's a
I don't,
frequency
you
match,
know.
you know? If you change your frequency, you're going to match the same frequency. If you keep your vibe low and you stay in your ego, you're going to match something else that's the same, you know? And so you've got to raise your vibration, you know, to, if you want that in your life, it starts with you. You can't expect everything around you to change, you know, it starts with you.
And people should know we're not in competition with each other. Just like, okay, someone to ask me, oh, you have a PhD, why aren't you a professor somewhere? Or why aren't you making a lot of money somewhere or something? I said, well, my journey, my path in life hasn't taken me in that direction. And, oh, why aren't you pastoring a church? I've been an associate pastor of a large church and done several things in that nature, but that I've been offered churches and synagogues and temples, but that is not my calling. That is not my path. That is not my journey. That's not where I'm supposed to be. I did not feel comfortable doing that because I was offered a big church with a car and a parsonage and all this, and being over a big congregation, and I could have taken it in a snap or been a rabbi at a synagogue. I was offered that here in Columbus to be a rabbi at a synagogue, and I did not take it because I prayed about it, and it was not my path to do. It wasn't my journey, part of my life's journey. So even though it had money and salary and all that involved, that's not what I was supposed to be doing. I'm supposed to be doing what I'm doing now.
Right.
For some reason.
Well, you're a free spirit. That's the thing. I mean, when you get trapped, I mean, look, churches are great for some people, but it's not for everybody, you know?
It's not.
And that's just fine. As long as, you know, you are doing something for your spirit. You know, as long as you're doing something. But I want to go back to what we were talking about last week, which is that wonderful cookbook that you got. I think this is a great way to finish this because, oh, and also people didn't know when you were younger, you were a model. And that's something I think is so cool because we're of a similar generation. And when we grew up, we started to see the transition, I think really in the 90s, where the fashion world started embracing women of color and especially browner women were, you know, brought forth more. And so I think it's so cool that you are a part of that and were modeling at the time. So I just wanted to put that out there for people. But let's take a look at this wonderful cookbook because this is something you said to me last week. You said, well, I grew up with these recipes. I didn't know these were Native American recipes. And so it's Edna Henry, and at the bottom, it's her name. It's Wei Cha Pitu Win, Blue Star Woman. So these are real Native American recipes, you guys, and these are things she grew up with. So when she comes to stay with me for a little bit, we're gonna cook some of this stuff.
Yes, I was just looking online, and I belong to this online thrift bookstore, and I was just looking for a couple of things, and I ordered this book, and then I found in it these recipes. This book was like $3 or something like that, $3, and it was written in the 80s, and like stuff. When I was a kid, my grandmother used to make for us, and I learned how to make just like maize soup, which is corn soup, and everything about this soup is, well, I sent you the recipe on you have it in your messages, but
Okay.
it has like dried kidney beans, hominy, corn. Hominy is a rough corn they make grits out of. Regular corn kernels, smoked, it says smoked butt or fatback, bay leaf, and sliced onions. So, and then you take it and you put it in a big pot and you cook it up. So just like smoked fat or smoked pork, but smoked butt is smoked pork really, or like ham.
Right.
So, and you cook it up, and this is stuff, and I had this as a child. This is stuff I still make every once in a while, like a bean and corn soup. Stuff I don't all the time. I don't eat a lot of red meat anymore, so I do use a little bit of diced ham or bacon or something like that to flavor it. And I cook my bacon, and I drain off a lot of the fat, and then I add the bacon back into the meat to give it the flavor without the fat. Because I'm a large woman, so and
Well,
then
you're
corn
doing great,
pudding.
actually. You've been working so hard on your health, and I'm so proud of you because, you're really, you guys, she's just an example of, where we should all be putting our energy right now. And this is why I wanted to have you on. But could you put up the table of contents of the recipes so that people could see some of the names of some of this food? Because this book is a treasure.
Here's the table of contents.
Okay.
But the table of contents doesn't really tell about the recipes.
Right.
So
show us another one that you love that is like really Native American.
Here's something. Corn pudding.
Right.
And everybody eats corn pudding. I think there's so many corn. Now I know something everybody eats, and that is easy to cook. No matter where I go, fry bread.
Oh yeah. Yeah, you can't.
No matter where you go, everybody eats fry bread. And the biggest thing, fry bread, everybody eats fry bread when they go to the fair.
Yes.
Or when they go to a festival, a fair. Every time you eat an elephant ear, that's fry bread.
Yep.
And every time you eat funnel cake, that's a type of fry bread. They took it from the Native Americans. The Native Americans had fry bread first. Elephant ears. Only thing they're doing is just putting sugar on it. That's right. Fry bread.
Right. And if you guys, if you go to powwows and stuff, you'll see the, Indian tacos are the most popular thing, and that's fry bread with, meat and cheese, just like a taco, but it's on fry bread. And then of course our lavender lemonade. Those are staples of any powwow or Native American gathering that you go to.
Lavender lemonade, teas, dandelion greens, poke greens, wild salad. There's all kind of stuff that's made. Rice, wild rice, corn, fish stew. Our stuff of the natives, and a lot of the stuff are indigenous people, the indigenous people of this land, the indigenous people of Africa, the indigenous people of Asia. They all belong to indigenous people. The people of Europe didn't know squat.
Yeah.
And I'm part of that blood of Europe, but the indigenous people taught the Europeans what to do and how to cook, because really their food was so bland and they didn't know how to use and do on the land. They taught the Europeans how to survive on this land. Otherwise, the Europeans would have starved to death.
Right. Yeah, corn, beans, and squash are the staples of the Native American
Three
diet.
sisters.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the three sisters.
And there's a recipe in there of the sisters. The sisters, corn, beans, and squash, and also a recipe, succotash, where you use the corn, the beans, the squash, and tomatoes goes into some of that, and variated recipes of the three sisters. You can do all kinds of things to make several different types of dishes. I even know a casserole you can do. Just whip up some eggs into the dish to make like and some cheese to make a casserole.
You're making me hungry. I made a big pot of lentil soup that's waiting upstairs for me after we have this interview, so I'm getting hungry now. Well, I'm so glad that we could do this today, Catie, and I am just so blessed that we're friends, and I love your wisdom, and I just want more people to know about you. And you guys, book a reading with her. You know, she's got a lot of love to give, and this is the kind of unconditional love that the world needs right now. They need the grandmothers. So thank you so much, Dr. Catie. I'm going to call you that from now on, Dr. Catie. Blessings and namaste, and I will see you soon.
Okay.
Okay.
Much love.
Much love.